I want to appreciate the piece that I see on the other wall, which is it's a takeoff on the Pietà, the great Michelangelo work of Mother Mary taking her son off the cross and holding him in her lap. And what we have is a woman in a
burqa.
Burqa, and in her lap is a skeleton.
Yes.
And she is surrounded by skeletons. And
She's surrounded by rubble.
Rubble.
Yeah, a mosque that's been demolished into bricks. There's a skeleton of a dead camel in there, and then behind her, in the far distance, is what is really driving this war. And actually, not only the reason that wars are fought, but one of the main ingredients in making a war, and that is
petroleum.
Oil. Yeah, petroleum.
Yeah, and there's another one over here with oil spelled out in blood, which reminds me of the slogans that a lot of people carried in the anti-war marches: "No blood for oil," and now you've got blood as oil, spelling out oil. One of the last times I remember talking to you on the radio show was about 6 years ago, when you began making a series of posters that were actually anti-war placards.
Yeah, they were picket signs.
They were picket signs.
Yeah.
And tell us about how that grew, how that happened, because it's a great story, and we did a show of those here as well at the time.
Well, first of all, my instinctive response to war and injustice is to make art. And actually, the first Gulf War, I remember the night the bombing started, a friend of mine stayed up in the one of the labs in the art department at the University of Wisconsin and printed up a bunch of "Stop the Bombing" signs and put them up around the campus.
Mm-hmm.
So this second war starts, and there were marches, and I just started making these images,
right.
These anti-war images, and then those kind of morphed into peace hero images.
Right.
And I printed them up pretty big, put them on picket signs, and went down to the march and sold them for the cost what it cost me to make them.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, it was about $7 anyway.
It was ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
For these beautiful images.
And then I brought a bunch of those down here, and there was a show of them.
Right.
The signs with their sticks and everything
right.
up on the wall.
Stuck the picket signs on the wall, but you also passed them out to busloads of folks going to D.C. and going to various anti-war marches.
Actually, I did do that, yes.
And I loved that whole concept. That, for one thing, as someone who has done a lot of marching, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, who's got the snare drum when, we need a snare drum.
Right.
We need decent chants. We need a sing-song thing so that our voices don't get all hoarse from going, what do you want, peace? When do you want it now? It just gets boring. And the youngsters don't know all the words to, will the circle be unbroken yet? They're learning. But so having beautiful art that actually says different things on each placard and reminds us of our peace heroes, reminds us of the wisdom holders through the ages who said the right words that we can look to and follow, was such a gift to the whole struggle to wage war against war, on war. Thank you for doing that.
Well, the more you give, the more you get.
I know that. I've heard that, and I believe it.
And by the way, you can download those images for free from my website.
And let's
tell people. It's www.wanderoo, WANDEROO.net.
And it's right there. And when you open the page, it says anti-war stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of links on the front page. I have, for an artist, I have a pretty ugly website, but it does the job.
So it's www.wanderoo.net. That's wander, O-O. All right, so Lester, it's rough being someone that I know so well, because I would ask more blunt questions if I didn't know you. Who are you? Where you come from? Let me just give people a little bit of history, because I know that before I knew you, you were working on the Seed newspaper. Were you the art editor for the Seed, or one of the many artists who?
Well, actually, Don Lewis, who founded the Seed, asked me to come and work on it. And sometime during the second issue, he had an argument with the
Editor?
No, he had an argument with the publisher, Earl Siegel, the Mole. The Seed was first published out of the Mole Hole on North Avenue. And if any of you listeners remember that, you are old farts like me. But at any rate...
Somebody raised their hand.
All right. So anyway, when he walked out, I became by default the designer, and I stayed with the Seed for a few years. And while I was with the Seed, I also designed the logo for the Rising Up Angry newspaper and a bunch of other stuff. So that was my entry into both being a professional graphic designer, sort of professional, and into having a venue for political art.
And you've never really strayed from that. You've always done political art, pretty much, right?
Well, you know...
You did design that rolling paper package, which was 1.5.
Actually, I designed several rolling paper packages for the guy who owned the other head shop, Headland, George.
It's only a weed that turns into a flower in your mind.
That's right.
I love that word, that sentence.
Yeah, 1.5 rolling papers. It was an innovation. One paper wasn't enough. Sticking two papers together was too much. So 1.5s, right?
Okay, you guys, we're visiting the culture that was long ago called the counterculture. It has, since then become the culture, part of the culture of the U.S. So we're exposing our age.
Yes, we're reminiscing.
Then you did us the great grace of designing the Heartland Cafe logo.
I did.
Yes, and it's still...
And the first menu.
And the first menu, and
some T-shirts.
And then the Heartland Journal.
And then the Heartland Journal, which, all right, then I had another opportunity to do a newspaper and be a graphic designer.
Incredible amount of work. I remember long, late nights pushing the deadline. We were terrible at pushing deadlines. Oh, yeah, that deadline from yesterday, now it's today. We were rough with that.
It's no wonder that I'm still working on the woodcut that I'm hoping to put on the wall, to print and put on the wall before 5 o'clock.
That's very Lester Dore of you, if I may say so.
Oh, God, yeah, that's me.
But your art is so inviting. People can step into it. People can feel a part of it. It's both populist and communicative at the same time. It invites folks into it.
I hope so. I mean, there are people who have questioned me about some of the work that I do. They say, is it right to make something beautiful about a subject that is so ugly?
Ooh.
And first of all, I would say to them, the more beauty in the world, the better. And second, if people don't look at it, and they're not going to look at an ugly piece, they're not going to get the message. So that's my particular philosophy about making political art.